The first one would be Fabio. May I call on Fabio? Oh, okay. Fabio, your topic is human formation in the training to priesthood, an exploration of mental and psychosexual health in Chinese seminary.
Yes.
Okay.
For the slides, use this one?
Yes, you use this one. Yes.
Okay, good morning, almost good afternoon, and thank you for inviting me to share my dissertation. I would like to thank Father Zollner, first of all, because he allows me to conduct this research here at the Gregorian University, and also my moderator, Dr. Katharina Fuchs. My doctoral dissertation, the topic was Human Formation and Training to Priesthood in Mainland China, 在中国大陆的天主教修道院人格培育啊。
We all understood,
we all know about human formation, and that is very important. It's the foundation of all priestly formation. And traditional formation was often unbalanced, focusing on the intellectual adequacy or inadequacy, but lacking the investigation of human affective maturity. And we know that child sexual abuse in the church is mainly correlated not with the celibate life, but with the clericalism and psychosexual confusion or immaturity. My doctoral dissertation included, the sample was 28 seminarians from 2 Chinese seminaries and 6 formators and a control group of 30 university students with the same age of the seminarians. I use a mixed method approach, and then it means that the sample is not so big, only 28 seminarians and 6 formators, but because we use qualitative and quantitative instrument, I think the data are significant. For the qualitative instruments, I use a semi-structured interview developed here in the Institute, and 2 quantitative instruments, the MMPI-2, the Chinese version, and for this first time, the sexual addiction screening test revised was translated in Chinese and used for the first time. The empirical data revealed that Chinese seminarians, compared to the control group, presented more severe mental and psychosexual issues. For example, the MMPI-2 showed the defensiveness and repression was very high in the seminarians. It means that for a moralistic over-control, and health aggression and sexuality was often repressed. But the shocking results come from the SASTR, because as we can see in the next slide, the prevalence of high scores for sexual preoccupation, compulsive behaviors included cybersex or internet pornography and sexual addictions was very high for the seminarians. And we know that these problems often are a symptom, is not the core problem, are related with shame, loneliness, and unhealed childhood wounds. As you can see here, if we compare the 2 groups, the results are very significant. There are 2 interviews, one for the formators and one for the seminarians. For the seminarians, we ask about significant life experiences, self-image, vocational values, human formation, psychosexual development, and affective maturity. And for the formators, the human formation program in the seminary, if the candidates are involved in this human formation, we also ask about psychosexual difficulties of the seminarians and preparation of the formators. One question was about the safeguarding. As you can see, it was never mentioned or just mentioned a bit, the safeguarding of minors and internet sex addiction. These topics were not dealt with. The formator, almost all of them, they said that what they need is a psychological evaluation that now is lacking. There is no psychological evaluation before or during the seminary. And also they feel that they are not qualified, they are not well prepared enough to deal with some deep issues of the seminarians. Regarding the seminarians' perceived difficulties and needs, they said the major difficulty is interpersonal relationship, stress from studies, they are students, so they're stressed from the studies, worries about temptation and sexuality. But if we look at the seminarians' difficulties, according to formators, we have sexuality, pornography addiction, stress, anxiety, incapacity to share their problems, no contact with the outside world, and no contact especially with the other sex. Formators' problem, according to seminarians, this is a revenge. Lack of preparation, too much emphasis on rules on the external side. They don't know the seminarians well. The formator themselves, they have personal problems they never were able to deal with. And they're always absent from the seminary, and they're busy outside, and they change too often, so no time for them to know the seminarians, and sometimes too conservative. These are the foreseen difficulties for the seminarians in the celibate life. Vocation and sexuality are not integrated. Loneliness, isolation, women temptation, relational conflicts, no seminary protection. When they go outside, there is no seminary to protect them, and no people to share with their problems, their issues, and so on. They also know how to protect themselves and to live a fruitful celibate life. For example, having good relationship, friends or other priests, habit of praying is important, intimate relationship with God, safe boundaries, and sexual energy directed to love more. I skip this. Seminarians' evaluation of the sexual education, they think is absent or inadequate. Only in the seminary, but they are afraid when they go before entering the seminary, there was no education regarding sexuality. And the first discovery of sexuality for them was pornography. That is not a good way to explore sexuality. All of them, they said, thanks to the seminary, they know the real meaning of sexuality. But before, at home or at school, nobody told them about the beauty of sexuality. They never talk about sexuality during the seminary. They just talk with other people, sometimes nuns or professor, but they don't dare to talk with the professor or the formators. And only some of them, they say, during the conversation with the formators, they share about this topic. For example, I am about to graduate after so many years in the seminary, and I never talk about these sexuality issues with my formators. I don't trust my formators, and sometimes they never ask me about this. So they don't ask, I don't need to tell. Usually, we don't talk about sexual issues in a natural way. I feel embarrassed to ask. I want to skip to the social and cultural factors that I found in my dissertation. The first one is filial piety. In China, but also in many countries in Asia, we called xiao. This filial piety means the respect toward the authority. That means the parents, but also the formators, the bishop, the government, people with authority. And this implies a relational distance from the authority, with authority, so with the parents, with the formators, and with the people in charge. And also, some of them, because of this filial piety, because they have to respect and help the parents, they feel that they should be there at home and help. Maybe they are the first child, until a few years ago there was the policy of one child. Now there is no more, but because of this, they feel that they should be at home to help. Another issue is 重男轻女 means to give more importance to boys compared to girls. Now this is less, but before, because of the one-child policy, of course, they emphasize the importance of boys because they were able to work in the farm, work in the fields, they bring money, so they usually gives more importance to boys compared to girls. Another aspect, a lot of seminarians that I interviewed belong to the category of Liudong Artong, that means migrant children, means families, including children, they have to move from one place to another because of their job, of the parents' job. And this, for example, the first one says, my parents were never at home. They were busy outside working, and so I was alone at home. But the main problem is that if you belong to these migrant children, when you move to another place, you don't have access to healthcare and schooling. And also sometimes they said they were bullied because they come from another place. Smoking and drinking. We are not talking about drinking water. We are talking about drinking baijiu, grappa. And it seems a silly topic, but a lot of seminarians that I interview mention this worry about the future, because when they go out from the seminary, in the parish, or sometimes they have to meet with the government, they have to drink. And they say, I am afraid because I don't like to drink. But because of the culture, I have to do this. And this gives me pressure. They like to smoke and drink alcohol, which is a way for Chinese people to build trusting relationship. However, I'm not interested in this, but I can also not refuse. I cannot refuse because I feel inconvenient, 不好意思, because if I don't drink, they think I'm not available to share with them. And I know some priests that died because of health problems related with this issue, smoking and drinking, that again are symptoms of the culture, but also of an internal anxiety coming from outside. In China, this is another aspect, social and cultural factors. They say, we know that when we go out and we become priests, we have to deal with the government, and this will affect our daily life and our pastoral work. When you cannot change a system, you just need to struggle to be a good person yourself. And some of the seminarians, they come from the underground community, so this is also another problem, because they know when they go out, they have to deal with the strict government policies about religion. Another social and cultural factors is regarding the financial aspect, because especially if you come from an underground community, or in some dioceses, they don't provide the salary. So already in the seminary, they are worried about this when they go out. How can they eat? And especially when they retire, who is going to take care of them? And I know in some dioceses, they're already thinking about some insurance for their retirement. All of these issues, they seem very small issues, but they give pressure to the seminarians, and this can create an internal anxiety that sometimes can turn out in the problem we saw in the beginning, in sexual addictions or lack of control of the impulses. So in summary, in the Asian and mainland China, the social and political pressure, including restricted religious freedom. This external stress frequently translates into anxiety, depression, and vulnerability to sex addictions or other health problems. We have a systemic deficiencies, overcrowded seminary environments. In the two seminaries, one of these two seminaries has 120 seminarians. The other one has 95, with very few formators, maybe 4 or 5. That's why they don't meet frequently with the formators. Critical scarcity of well-trained formators, lack of specific courses regarding safeguarding, and a cultural taboo regarding sexuality, and also to seek for professional help is still considered something that is not good. There is a heavy stigma on finding psychological help. So in conclusion, recommendation for seminary formation. implementation and reorganization of human formation program. Formation of formators. The formators themselves, they feel they're not well prepared. Renewal of seminary structure. These big seminaries are not helpful for the seminarians. Psychological screening for all the seminarians. And working of this tendency to see becoming a priest as a high social status, clericalism. And also, this is very serious, I think, up to now, there are no officially reported cases of child abuse in the Catholic Church of China. That is something that is impossible to be true. Only myself, during my research and my experience, I know some cases, but there are no officially reported cases in China. So if you want to read more about my dissertation, we published an article last year, and you can scan the QR code. I hope it works, so you can learn more about what I presented. Thank you so much.